Every second, NASCAR drivers are just inches away from catastrophe at speeds of nearly 180 miles per hour. However, no one anticipated that Kyle Busch's narrative would conclude in this manner. Fans were immediately alarmed when Dale Earnhardt Jr. eventually disclosed information about Busch's last moments. Not only was what he recounted heartbreaking, but it was also quite unnerving. Because many people think the racing world completely overlooked something that was concealed in those last moments until it was too late. The internet was rocked by this message. The whole racing world froze when Dale Earnhardt Jr. posted a message on X only hours after NASCAR confirmed Kyle Busch's passing. He didn't post a generic rest in peace message. He didn't share a verse from the Bible. Every fan's understanding of the final chapter of Kyle Busch's life was altered by the story he shared, which no one outside of their small circle had ever heard before. For many years, Dale and Kyle endured what he described as an extremely difficult life. And you already know that is the understatement of the century if you followed NASCAR at any point between 2005 and 2007. For the greater part of 10 years, these two were at odds with one another on and off the track, in interviews, and in the media. A video of the Richmond door bang in 2007 alone would be plenty. Additionally, Rick Hendrick's decision to release Kyle from Hendrick Motorsports following the 2007 season in order to make room for Dale Jr. on the roster created an additional layer of personal tension between the two drivers that followed them around the garage in silence for years afterward. This is the bit that struck everyone in the chest, though. Dale said that Kyle initiated the process of making amends. Not Dale. One day, Kyle entered Dale's motorhome and struck up a discussion on how each of them ran their racing teams. The door opener was that. At that point, two guys who had been making each other miserable for years made the decision to try something different. In order to laugh through some of the things they put each other through, Dale wrote that they even did media together. Then he revealed the information that caused the entire internet to become silent. He mentioned that they had recently discussed Kyle driving one of Dale's late-model vehicles at North Wilkesboro this summer. To have Kyle's seat fitted at the JR Motorsports facility, they planned to get together the following Thursday. Kyle was thrilled about it. According to Dale, Kyle really chuckled at the thought of JRM and his followers having to support the same driver in the same race. The scheduled date of that meeting was May 29th. On May 21st, Kyle passed away. A handshake that would have been one of the most heartwarming moments in NASCAR history was 8 days away. You now have to accept that one of the biggest rivalries in contemporary racing did not culminate in a thrilling race to the finish line or a championship match. A text thread concerning seat fits and an unfulfilled Thursday appointment marked the end of it. They were that close to something unique. However, the NASCAR world was rocked by more than just Dale's homage that week. Because the events that took place in the 11 days leading up to Kyle's death are still not entirely clear, and it all began with a radio call that no one gave any mind to at the time. Nobody took the radio call seriously. Kyle Busch was competing in the Cup Series event at Watkins Glen in upstate New York on Sunday, May 10th. For the first time this season, he was driving Richard Childress Racing's number 8 Chevrolet, and it was actually fast. He was in the top 10. He was moving. He reminded fans of the Kyle Busch from the Joe Gibbs racing era. He said that he and Samantha were extremely proud of Brexton's development and that the child's potential was boundless. Kyle's Instagram still has that post up as of right now. It was his final post on social media. He was a father enjoying his son's birthday 3 days prior to his passing, and he wrote of his pride. Consider what Samantha shared on the same day. She described seeing Brexton develop into this motivated, humorous, and compassionate young man as the best gift. He will always be her baby, she added, regardless of how big he grows or how fast he drives. She will lose her husband 3 days later. I wrote those words with joy. They are grieving now. Kyle and Brexton traveled to Durham, North Carolina, for the Andretti Indoor Karting Facility's grand opening on Tuesday, May 19th. There was Mario Andretti himself, sharing anecdotes. Nazai Dura, a man who attended the gathering, later told a local TV station that he witnessed Kyle and Brexton bonding and playing arcade games together in a way that was hard to ignore. He claimed that because the moment was too special, he did not want to disturb them. Kyle was chuckling. He was there. He was with his son. The following day, at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Mario Andretti would take out his phone and show reporters a video of Kyle grinning and shaking his hand at that very moment. It was the shock of his life, according to Andretti. Everyone knew Rowdy, he said, and Kyle would always make people grin when they mentioned him. Tuesday was that day. At an arcade, Kyle Busch was grinning with his child and shaking hands with a legendary racer. He would be coughing up blood on a bathroom floor 24 hours later. The last tragic times. Kyle Busch drove to the General Motors Charlotte Technical Center in Concord, North Carolina, on Wednesday, May 20th, in order to perform simulator work. This was an entirely typical aspect of his weekly schedule. RCR and other Chevrolet teams frequently use that facilities for engineering and racing preparation. Kyle's presence on a Wednesday in May wasn't out of the ordinary. Someone at that facility called 911 at around 5:30 in the evening. The audio of the call was eventually made public by the Cabarrus County Sheriff's Office, and the caller's description did not indicate a sinus cold. The caller reported to the dispatcher that a person was having trouble breathing, was extremely hot, and appeared to be on the verge of passing out. The caller said that the person was coughing up and producing blood. He claimed that although the person was on the bathroom floor, they were still awake and conscious. Kyle was awake, the caller reiterated 3 times. He guided the paramedics to a side entry and ordered them to enter without sirens. Kyle was sent to a hospital in the Charlotte region from the Concord facility. The hospital's name has never been made public. The most significant piece of public medical evidence in the whole narrative is the 911 audio. This is the only instance in which we learn what was truly occurring to Kyle Busch's body before to his passing. The cough in Dover, the shot at Watkins Glen, and the sinus cold were all signs of something developing. It first appeared on the Concord bathroom floor. The racing community would find out by the next morning that Kyle Busch would never succeed again. Severe illness and the 2 words that don't help. Kyle's family posted on his social media sites on Thursday morning, May 21st, stating that he had been hospitalized due to a serious illness. He would not participate in any planned events at Charlotte Motor Speedway that weekend, according to the statement. Austin Hill was named Richard Childress Racing's replacement for the Coca-Cola 600. Kyle's number 8 Chevrolet would be ready and waiting for him when he recovered, according to the RCR statement. After a few hours, everything was different. Kyle Busch passed away, according to a joint statement from NASCAR, Richard Childress Racing, and the Busch family. According to the statement, he is a once-in-a-generation talent and a potential Hall of Famer. Samantha, Brexton, Lennox, his parents, and Kurt are its names. The whole NASCAR family was reportedly devastated. It then listed his reason of death in 2 words. Severe sickness. That's it.no name for the hospital. No health issues. There is no timetable explaining how a man who was playing arcade games on Tuesday ended up dead in a hospital on Thursday. The following day, Steve O'Donnell, CEO of NASCAR, gave a press conference at Charlotte Motor Speedway. He referred to Kyle as an American badass. He explained that if they didn't race this weekend, Kyle would likely be very upset, so they were going to pay tribute to him by doing what he enjoyed most. When a reporter inquired about the cause of death, O'Donnell responded that they were still 24 hours away from receiving the call and that he would not provide specifics out of consideration for the family. He pledged to provide transparency eventually. O'Donnell then revealed one final revelation that devastated everyone present. He claimed that on Tuesday, while he and Brexton were at the Andretti event, Kyle texted him. "Hey man, what do you think about an over 40 rule so I can compete in all the Truck Series races next year?" was the text. They had actually considered it in an internal meeting on Wednesday and decided it was a good idea, O'Donnell added, laughing through tears. Less than 30 minutes away, Kyle was collapsing in a building when that meeting took place. Additionally, Richard Childress Racing declared that the number 8 will be permanently retired. According to the statement, Kyle had a key role in creating the style of that number and no one else could continue it in the same manner. They claimed that when Brexton Busch is prepared to compete in NASCAR, the number 8 will be set aside for him. That choice is identical to what RCR did in 2001 following the death of Dale Earnhardt Sr. at Daytona, when they parked the number 3 until Austin Dillon was mature enough to operate it. The unspoken brother. There were tributes from all around the place. Kyle was dubbed the Kobe Bryant of racing by Denny Hamlin. Brad Keselowski advised folks to give their loved ones hugs and described it as a complete shock. Jimmy Johnson described Kyle as one of the most gifted drivers he had ever driven alongside. According to William Byron, Kyle is the ideal mentor. Bubba Wallace claimed that his heart ached from suffering and his eyes ached from sobbing. According to Joe Gibbs Racing, their hearts were shattered. Rick Hendrick claimed to have seen Kyle develop in the sport. However, one individual in the NASCAR world has remained silent. Kurt Busch, the older brother of Kyle. In 2001, the man told reporters that his younger brother was the family's finest driver. The man's career ended in 2023 due to a concussion from which he never fully recovered. Just 4 months before his brother passed away, in January of 2026, the man was inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame, with Kyle standing next to him on the red carpet. Kurt doesn't post anything on Instagram. There is no activity on his X account. He was listed with Samantha, Brexton, and Lennox in the NASCAR joint statement, but Kurt hasn't found the right words yet. To be honest, I don't think anyone can hold him accountable. Since the child outlived your career by 3 years but did not outlast you, how do you create a post about the child you told the world was superior to you and who proved you correct 234 times on a Friday in Dover? Kyle Busch won his most recent race. On a Monday, he celebrated his son's birthday. On a Tuesday, he shook hands with Mario Andretti and played arcade games with his child. On a Wednesday, he passed out. And on a Thursday, he was absent. From a Watkins Glen radio call to a Charlotte hospital, it took 11 days. 41 years of age. 2 titles. 234 victories. His spouse has been with him since 2008. A son who aspires to emulate him. A 4-year-old daughter. And a brother who is currently sitting someplace, attempting to find out how to bid farewell to the family's greatest driver. You never know when the final one will occur. Treasure each one of them. Believe me. That's what Kyle stated. In that regard, he was also correct. I still find it hard to comprehend how quickly this occurred. From a regular radio call, 11 days later, it was gone. I know many of you are still struggling to understand this one, so please share your opinions in the comments.